What up, what up, what up? What is happening, good people? Welcome to this very special edition of Herb and Two. Alongside Tucson, my name is Herb Howard. Every Thursday and Saturday, we are here hanging out with you wonderful people, talking about issues that currently impact the black community. We talk about how issues that impact us as individuals and also issues that impact us as individuals. And along with your help, we talk through these issues in hopes of finding the optimum solutions for how we can overcome said issues. Again, overcome them as individuals, but perhaps more importantly, overcome them as a collective. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be a part of this conversation. As always, your input is valued. It is certainly appreciated. Anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so. We will read through as many of your comments as possible. We kindly request that you take a second to share the broadcast, share it on your personal pages, share it within your personal networks, share with anybody that you think would add value to or find value in this particular conversation. Make sure you like the video and have subscribed to the page. Set the alert so you get reminders every time the page goes live. Again, this is Herb and Two, this intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb. There's a legend in between that guy, but his name is Two. Two, what's happening, good brother?
What's happening, family? I'm blessed and highly favored, man. How you?
Doing quite well. Very, very, very excited. If you've been rocking with Herb and Two for any length of time, you are very familiar with the man that is seated in between Two and I. Uncle Walt, Walter Beach, is here live in person. He's been a regular contributor and guest on the show virtually, but here in Chicago, he come and chop it up with us. Sit down on the couch. Uncle Walt, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure, sir. All respect to you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Just so pleased to have the opportunity to share some of my opinions and beliefs, as well as share the friendship and the respect and love that I have for you and your team and what you're trying to do in terms of sharing meaningful knowledge and information dealing with the struggle that we have in this country. And sometimes I want to be clear when I say we have the struggle that I'm saying that me and you and Two have, because I'm not certain that everyone is struggling with what we're struggling with. So I try to be clear as best I can in the language that I use, and my intentions are always honorable. But one of the words you used earlier about the collective, and I kind of think that that's kind of a misnomer, a black collective in this country. We've got a lot of black folks going in a lot of different directions. And so that's some of the things I think we need to talk about.
Well, we definitely going to get into some of those. I talked about, for most of y'all know him, but for some people that may not know Uncle Walt, not only is he, Uncle Walt, he's Two's godfather, but he's so many other things too. I'll let you run down the great life that Uncle Walt has lived, and to make people who may not be as familiar become a little bit more.
Man, you all get the opportunity to witness living history, man. Uncle Walt has recently turned 90, right, Uncle Walt?
Yeah, 90, January 31st.
90, moving like a 30-year-old out here.
Moving around better than Two out here.
You know what I mean? Born in Pontiac, Michigan.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Lived all around the world, man. Great friend of my dad's. Great mentor to me. Man, just a damn brother, with all those accolades, though, nothing is more important than his character, though.
Facts.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah. It's an important word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it's an important word.
Y'all raised me right, absolutely.
You always important with the words, and I know you just touched on this idea of the collective, and we'll get into that. I know, sometime within the last couple of years, you had challenged my perspective on the idea of sacrifice, right? I would often talk about the sacrifices that need to come from the collective, and you was like, I don't know about no sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, my personal philosophy about that is that uh, if your intentions are good and noble and honorable as you view them, then it's not a sacrifice. So what I do to support myself, my family, my friends, and black people, I don't see that as a sacrifice. I don't have no other alternative. I don't have, so I'm responsible for that which I believe we as sentient human beings on this planet should share and benefit from. So, and if it means one on another level that I may lose a friend or an associate or a job or my life, so be it. It's not a sacrifice. That's what I'm here to do on my particular mission. Now, someone else may view that differently. I'm not afraid or scared because I've come to terms with what it is, the meaning to be a sentient human being on this planet. So I'm on my journey, and if my journey turns out to be that I lose my life, then I lost my life, you know. So what's the big deal about it? I've done all I can do, and that's what my grandmother used to say something, and she was and this is coming out of the Christian religion that she was comfortable with, you know. And one of the things she always used to tell me, if when you give the best of your service, he'll understand and say, well done. Now, that pronoun he is universal intelligence to me.
Okay.
Divine universal intelligence. Because I don't participate or deal with any of the imperial religions. That's Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism. I don't address any of those particular functions being meaningful to me.
Sure.
So all I do is give the best of my service in what I deal with. You know.
I can't tell you how much solace and like direction I found in your words and your philosophy on sacrifice. And I think part of it, and it was something that, you know, I pushed back on initially because it challenged me in such a way, because I think that for a lot of us, we view things as sacrifices, right? And to your point, these are just things that we're supposed to be doing. These are things we're responsible for doing. This is what's required of us. But somehow we still want to be patted on the back about it. So then we got to come up with a word to say, oh, I made these great sacrifices to feed my kids, or I made these great sacrifices to be a good husband, I made these great sacrifices to be a good son, a good brother, or whatever, or to walk in my purpose and follow my mission. Like, that's not a sacrifice. Either you believe that's what you're supposed to be doing, or you don't. And I've taken great direction from those words in the time that you've, you know, taught me to view it that way. I've had a lot of opportunities professionally in the past couple of years, and I've turned them all down because I don't think they are aligned with my purpose or my mission. And so everybody else is looking at me like, that's crazy. How could you tell this corporation? How could you tell these people no? These people know. That's the biggest in your arena, right? And it's like, I don't view it as a sacrifice because I view my purpose as different.
Yeah, and my father taught me this particular aspect around it. He said, fair exchange ain't no robbery.
Even swap ain't no swindle.
Yeah, so he said fair exchange ain't no robbery, you know. And so I feel comfortable. And since we're talking about it, one of the individuals that some of us know about was Paul Robeson.
Yes, sir.
And Paul Robeson, in his book, Here I Stand. And what's so important is you have to understand, he's saying, here I stand. And he ain't asking all the rest of us to stand. He just said, this is where I stand. He said, and let me read it, just a brief thing on it. It ain't going to take but a minute.
Hey, we glad you're here. You're going to do most of the talking today, Uncle Walt. So say how you feel it, man.
Now I'm going to read it. It said, who can stand?
Yes, sir.
He said, when the whirlwind of fury comes from the throne of God. That's the divine intelligence. He said, who can stand? And then in his book, he said, I can stand. Because the whirlwind of fury might not be in agreement with what's going on. And that's why I say I don't follow any of those traditional religious doctrines. You know, I just know that this is the way I see it. If somebody sees it differently, if you see it differently, it's cool with me. So I'm not proselytizing or trying to recruit anybody to my particular philosophy. I'm just saying that here I am, here I stand. This is what I believe. You kill my dog, I kill your cat. That's just that. You know, that's just it, man. For me.
I know we got a whole list of things we're going to get to, right? But just listening to y'all talk, man, and even before you got in here, shit on the way here, I was just thinking about in general, like the power of words and how they shape philosophy, right? And how they're communicated and who communicates them, right? In a lot of ways, I think we value words more than we value thought. Yeah. Right? I'm talking about the masses of people.
For sure.
Right? And being an orator is a skill. You know what I mean? So even some of us with the greatest thoughts and the greatest ideas and the greatest philosophies and the greatest minds are not the greatest communicators.
True.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
True.
And I was just thinking about that in context, even how we just opened up, right? Uncle, I was like, there's no collective. And I think about why there is no collective, right? And in my mind, the fourth arm of government is media.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And if we think about how media works, it's like wars of attrition. They keep pounding messages into your head, right? So you might live in one reality, but if you're tuned into this message, and even your reality is skewed by the understanding that the media is giving you about your reality.
Perception is reality.
Your perception becomes your reality, even if you live in a totally different reality.
No doubt.
And I'm thinking about just last week when we was in here having a conversation, and y'all was laughing at me because I don't deal with the proper pronouns. I was saying retard, all that shit. They were like, don't say that too, don't say that too. But think about that.
Right.
And I think I sent y'all a clip.
A commercial from like the 90s?
It was a commercial.
Two of my friends actually used the word retarded in conversation. One while at work and another one just in conversation. And I was like...
I only bring this up to say this, though. Right? Words have power. Specifically when we don't live in a society where people are thinking. They're only being driven.
Sure.
And if we can see in our time how government has dictated which words, just grabbing a few, are acceptable and not acceptable.
Sure.
Which words demonize and don't demonize. Right? We've seen it happen in our faces.
In real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
Right? Hence, when we think about why we don't have a collective, it's because we're tuned into a mechanism that keeps us away from that idea. And we are fully in alignment with the idea. Right? B said to me on the way over here, right? You can't be a victim and a volunteer.
Facts.
It's one or the other.
Facts.
You know what I mean? You just gave me the Latin phrase on the way over, which I didn't remember, but it says the same thing. You can't be a victim and a volunteer.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean? You can't be a victim and a volunteer.
If you volunteer for the act, you can't be victimized by it. You chose it.
Yeah. The Latin is for, Latin, you use the V is pronounced with a W, but it's spelled V-O-L-E-T. Volenti, non fit injure. Now, if you translate that into English, it means no wrong is done to one who consents. So, if somebody's kicking your butt and you consenting to it,
then you deserve that ass.
That's right. It's not a wrong.
So let me interject with y'all on this piece right here because I follow y'all and I'm pretty sure I know where y'all going. But just to be clear, when you say consent, right? Is it also to consent to not refute, to not push back against? You know what I mean? Like, so if somebody's in an abusive relationship, I'm not really consenting to you going outside my head, but if I ain't doing something otherwise, it's implicit consent, right?
Right. You know what? That's interesting, because that's the mechanism how people try to escape and say, I really don't have the. If we're using it in in context of a male-female relationship.
Sure.
But they're different
Sure.
relationships. But if we live in that relationship, well, he's beating me up or anything, and one, ain't nothing I can do about it, or because I don't have the resources or the strength. But like I said, you or I believe that you violate the whole issue or the essence of divine intelligence, the will, and if you want to call it God, God put you here. So you've always got the opportunity. I remember Denzel and what I was telling you about Training Day. The guy got a gun, he's going to shoot Denzel. And he told Denzel, you don't have a choice. And Denzel said, I always got a choice. And I may not like the consequences, but you always got a choice. And that always got a choice is predicated upon intentions. You know, my intentions is to be a viable and sovereign and free human being. So if you come at me and anything like that's going to violate that, I got a choice. See, the difference in what I call anti-racism is what y'all doing, which is counter-racism. You can't just say, well, I don't like it because they're racist. No, man, you got to do something. You got to be. You got to do. And if you're not going to be and do, then just, hey, and that's cool.
You accepted it.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Volunteer.
You're a willing victim.
Yes, sir.
You're a willing victim. And if you're going to be a willing victim, that's cool. And for me, and I don't know about y'all, but
if you're willing, you can't be a victim.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're a co-conspirator.
Yeah, that's right.
You signed up for this.
You signed right.
Yeah. So, and for me, I don't deal with folks like that, period. My life. I don't know nobody that's going to sit down and let somebody do something to them and they find some way to escape it by rationalizing it.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I struggle with that, and it's funny, and I struggle with it in the sense of having empathy, right? So you were just saying, too, before the cameras came on, we was talking about being labeled as an asshole, right? And I think that in having this conversation, like, I feel like somebody would probably label me an asshole because just today, for instance, I was talking to one of my friends or a person in my life, and she was telling me something, and my mind first went to, instead of me being empathetic or being like, oh man, that sucks, he's so bogus, my mind went to like, well,
why are you tolerating that?
Right, why are you still here? How are you doing this again when you already knew you've been shown X, Y, Z? And it's the same thing. It's like, okay, you're a willing participant in it if you already had one experience. No, you had an experience where you already understood this is who this person was.
Right.
You put yourself in the same position.
Right.
And then you put yourself in the same position, again, personally. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to like find empathy for those type of situations.
It's interesting. Now, shout out to all the official dirtbags that's checking in, watching this live as we record on Tuesday. Miss J saying this is a touchy subject, and I to an extent, I understand where she's coming from. Like, this is touchy, and you talk about like, oh, and you want to be talking about victim blaming and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I think when it gets right down to it, and I think it's interesting that Uncle Walt has that philosophy because we often refer to the imperial question that your father asks when anything arises. Yeah. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do? That's what Tu and I was talking about earlier. What you gonna do? Now I get a lot of messages from music too, but to follow up on what you were saying, and to follow up on that victimization, and what you gonna do? And it's a song. I don't know if I know the name of the song. Yeah, I really must go. And he said, but baby, it's cold outside. I really can't stay. But baby, it's cold outside. Basically saying, if that's what you want to do, you got to know it's cold out there. You just can't go outside and think, well, it ain't gonna be cold because I don't want. No, hey, I don't even know who sang that song, but when I was a kid, I used to hear it, and I said, I really like that. I really must go. And then he would say, but baby, it's cold out there. He's informing you what's out there. And what we're doing is, in my opinion, is trying to inform people what's out there in America for black folks. That's what I'm talking about, because I've meshed this into what the the racial phenomena that exist in this country. And even to the point that when Tu and I were talking about all of the subtle aspects of it, and I'm just saying that, hey, it's cold out there. If you're going to be a black man in America, which I've been for 90 years, for 90 years, and I know it's cold out there. So what I have decided to do is to resist it in any manner I can, and have yet been unable to convince my wife to the understanding that, far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to get out of America, man. I'm ready to go somewhere other than here to deal with it. And I'm cool. I've been blessed, man.
Part of why this system works so efficiently, though, is because it's comfortable, right? So they make it just comfortable enough to where you won't challenge it.
Well, that's the point.
And I'm agreeing with you 100%, but we don't understand. Again, one of our other elders always says to us, how do you explain water to a fish?
Yeah.
Right? It's impossible. This is all the fish knows.
Yeah.
Right. Unless the fish is spend some time on land, what the fuck is you talking about water?
Right.
This is my existence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. But that metaphor is not. See, again, and I like this discussion. But what that metaphor is suggesting, that the metaphor is not suggesting anything other. It's not addressing comfort. See, what it's addressing is the existential reality of where the fish is. See, so when you're having a discussion about where the fish is, then you cannot introduce concepts of theory that's got nothing to do with the fish.
Agreed, 100%. That's what I was going to take it to.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
We have become lazy in the environment, right? Because the difference between radio and television and books, there's subtle differences, right? They're all media, right? But when you open up a book, it forces you to leverage your mind. Right. Your mind's eye begins to create images. Your mind's eye begin to tell you the story as you read the words, right? Sound, you leveraging and using your brain. Same thing with radio when you listen to music, right? You visualize the imagery behind the words. But when you turn on the television or the computer or the phone at this point, it's dial up, right? And it's going to give you the images and the messages, right? Hence, when you're ingratiated in that, you're in the water because it's the only message we're going to give you.
Right.
And because you're not challenging the water, everything's okay. I'm just comfortable enough. I know it's fucked up out here. I know without ever witnessing police violence, without never being subjected to police violence as a black human being, specifically male, when the police get behind your car, you immediately get nervous. That in itself is reason enough for revolt because he's done nothing to you. There's an overlapping energy that says to you, I should be in fear. There's an overlapping energy that says to you, I am about, or I can be victimized. You've already submitted. You've already submitted.
Well, let's examine that. When you explore it, what you're talking about is the possibility. See, and you and Herb, y'all know, I don't live in that world. I don't live in what I live in. I live in the moment. Whatever's happened to me 90-something years back there, that's gone. Ain't nothing I can do about it. What's going to happen to me out here, I don't know. See, so I don't live in my imagination. I live in what's going on. So when I drive up, the police pulls up to me and stops my car, and he asks me for my driver's. I'm gonna give him my driver's license. I ain't got no more fear of him killing me than he's got of me killing him.
I agree 100%.
So the point, and then I want to share this with you, because I used to live in New York, and I'm on the subway train. I go down on the subway train, and it's raining, and I got my umbrella. And when I get to the bottom of Central Park West, I pop my umbrella to take the rain off, right? And the rain gets onto a policeman, white policeman. He said, "Man, the fuck you doing?" I said, "Man, who in the fuck you talking to?" He puts his hand on his glove, on his gun. I put my hand on his hand. I said, "It's gonna be what you want it to be." You ain't gonna just shoot me, man. It's gonna be what you want it to be. Cause I'm just as much man as you are with this gun. And he looked at me, he said, oh, go on, you crazy. Yeah, all right, I'll be crazy. But I wasn't crazy. He knew that if he tried to kill me, he had so when they come, they got as much risk as losing their life as you got to be losing yours, unless you succumb to the aspect that he has the dominant aspect of it. He's a human being like me.
Unless you become a volunteer. Unless you become a volunteer.
That's right, you become a willing volunteer. Yeah, no, I know. I'm not saying you.
Oh, you told me,
multiple times. Yeah, I got a problem with that shit because I do it. I'm dealing with my child in the car. And I'm like, I ain't got that be cool out too. You know what I mean?
No, but if you want your child to understand, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it all the time. Because if you want to give up something, I'm gonna give one more analogy, and I'm not just trying to polish me. I'm on a football team, professional football team, the Cleveland Browns. I'm reading a book, and I read the book. The book is Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad. And I've already told you that I don't embrace any of those religions, But I'm reading the book as a free and sovereign human being. And the owner of the team, Mr. Modell, Art Modell, come up. He said, Walt, he said, what are you reading? We're on the airplane. I showed us, I'm reading a book by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, I don't want you to read that book. I said, okay. He left. Half an hour, 45 minutes, he come back. He said, you reading that book? I said, yeah. He said, I thought I told you that I didn't want you to read that book. I said, you did. I said, but I thought you were joking. I said, because a man can't tell another man what to read. You own this football team. You don't own me, man. So when we get to wherever you go, you can let me go, but you don't own me. Now, final example, and I'm gonna say, and I want this young lady to excuse this young lady. When my man, a couple of guys on the team said, hey, Doc, that's what they call me. He said, Doc, he said, you don't take no prisoners, do you? I said, no, I don't take no prisoners, and I'm not going to be one. So I get back home. I tell my wife about it, my first wife. You know my first wife. Told her about it. And I'm sharing this with, I'm apologizing to you for sharing the story. My first wife, she said, well, Walt, she said, why don't you just put up the book? I said, I just can't put up the book. He can't tell me to put up the book. I said, Barbara. And she said, what? I said, let me ask you this. You said I should put up the book because he said, put up the book. I said, suppose he said, I want to fuck you. What do I do now? She said, he'd never say that. I said, I thought he'd never say put up the book. I don't know what he'll say. I don't know what he'll do. All I know is what I got to do. That's the best way I can explain it. For me.
That's real, Uncle Walt. Now you juxtapose that type of mentality, right, to some of the stuff that we see today. And there's a video that's been out on social media recently. It's a, I say 20-something-year-old black dude, and he's got middle-aged white man on the street, and he's filming them. And I don't know if you've ever seen this game. They call it heads up. And you put the phone up to your face like so, and you play with another person, and you can see the word, and the person is trying to get you to guess the word. And, right, charades. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate you, P. Yeah, like charades. And so the words on this phone, though, are slave, nigga. Like, these are the words. And so the white man is trying to get this young black dude.
He's acting out behaviors that will imply the word slave or nigga.
He's throwing a whiplash.
But the young black dude is doing it because he thinks the shit is comical.
It's funny.
It's a prank.
Yeah, it's a joke to him.
It's a joke to him.
Oh, man.
To have this white man call him slave and nigga.
Oh, man.
Or act out slave and nigga to him. And when he gets to, so the slave, he's like throwing lashes and all this. Nigga, he's like, he just points to him. He's like, you. Buddy think it's funny. Black boy think it's funny.
Even before we get to a responsible beach, this is what I'm talking about, the power of media, though, right? You saw that, I saw that, you saw that. I'm sure it's hundreds of thousands of views on it. Even if it's just thousands of views on it, it don't even really matter, right? When we think about what's happening in Texas, where they're trying to redesign their curriculum to say that slavery didn't exist, that's still media.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right?
100%.
So when we start thinking about that, we could go, we ain't got to go. I'm going to stop saying go. We can walk outside this door and ask a random 20-something-year-old black person walking down the street, who was Martin Luther King?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'd be hard-pressed to get a solid answer. Mm-hmm. I think you can ask a 50-something-year-old black man, what was the impact of a Martin Luther King? Mm-hmm. And I think you get a skewed answer. Mm-hmm. I think if you, and I'm saying King on purpose.
Sure, because that's
the known one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Anything
beyond
less
that is like,
famous than that is
talking about.
Yeah, is another language.
You understand? That's a whole nother, you in a whole nother dimension with some other shit.
Yeah.
King is the one that the media's been producing.
Right.
And you can't tell me about him.
Nothing past a dream.
Nothing past the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I knew Dr. King.
So that's what I mean, like how powerful that shit is.
Yeah. Too, I think that what we're doing here is we're addressing the aspect of colonialism and the colonization. So the colonization is not just the colonizing a nation or country.
Colonization of your
the
mind.
colonization, the colonizing thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts. I don't forgot what that other issue is, but just that thought issue now. You go here, man, and you Google, and if you want to do it now, because I do all this studying. So I Googled. I said, who are the first people on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And I have it all brought down, because all race, all the term race is a synonym for subspecies.
Mm-hmm.
The Mongoloid, Caucasoid, and the Negroid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just a synonym. That's what race is. It's a synonym for the subspecies. But you ask the question on Google. So we were talking one day, and I was telling my wife, I said, you look at this here. So they asked, I said, who is the first race of people on the planet? And the first thing pops up. The Europeans did so and so and so and so. And the Mongoloids did so and so and so. And the Negro. But the point I'm making is the standard is when they put themselves first, and the question was, who's first?
Right.
But when they explain it, and this is Google, and this is what they're doing to all our kids too, because they're not teaching them to read and write, they're teaching them to follow this stuff here, and that's the stuff that they have control over.
Exactly.
So they control all that. So when you Google something, basically, and this is a term that I use, again, I call it ZGR.
Zero grade reliance.
So I don't rely on nothing that white men say. Nothing. Why? Does he have any intellectual capabilities that I don't have? And so can he add and find out what 2 and 2 is? I can do that too.
Sure.
So why do I need to follow that particular standard about how I live my life? So my life is not really, and I keep saying it, and y'all might not understand, I'm blessed beyond measures, man. I done been all over the world and parts of China. So I done done everything,
Like that's a different part.
Yeah, so I don't even have to worry about it. So what they gonna do, take me out?
2 references that zero grade lines and quotes you on that all the time. He's like, white man tell me not to spit on the sidewalk. It's my duty to spit on that sidewalk.
And then Chairman Mao said that, didn't he? In the Cultural Revolution. When your enemy tells you what not to do, unless you're gonna become a willing victim, you got to do it. Mm-hmm. Why? Because that's what he don't want to do, so that he can survive and live a better life. And the final point I want to make, because a lot of people don't understand. I played professional football. I won a championship. I got paid. But them cats only wanted me to provide the particular stuff that they couldn't provide. So they wasn't doing me no favor. I told Blandon Collier, who was the coach, man. He said, I'll pay this boy so much money. I said, well, that's how much money I want to get paid. He said, but Walt, you have to understand this. And he left some of the understanding out. He said, but you have to understand this. Bernie been playing 2 years longer than you. 2 things he left out. 1, Bernie's white. the other thing he left out is that you asked Bernie to cover Raymond Berry like you asked me to cover Raymond Berry. Do you want me to cover Raymond Berry 2 years less than Bernie covering? See, so I'm just, I'm having fun in this because it's just my perspective, and I'm cool with what I have to say, and it's just me. I believe it, I say it, and I live it.
A question I have, man, and I don't know. I think it goes back to the idea that you said that there is no collective, right? But it resonates in so many different ways, right? Like I remember,
it's painful.
I'm a child of the village in the greatest way possible. You know what I mean? Like I had so many influences in my life. Some would be considered positive.
Sure.
Others would be considered negative. I considered it all positive because it all was informative.
Kind of all right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I sat at the feet of a lot of men. That community was built for me.
Right.
Right. And not only was it built for me, I valued it. You know what I mean? If I could come sit on the stoop and just listen to the old dudes kick the shit, I wanted to be there.
That's invaluable.
It was right. So, but what I recognize though, and it gets to the point of the Google search thing, we have a new generation who don't give a shit what the generation before them has to say.
Nah, they think they can learn more from the Google than they can from the Uncle Walts of the world.
Google becomes the standard.
If I could spend time with the Uncle Walts or the King Salines, you could keep Google to hell.
Fuck Google.
You know what I mean? Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even I read a lot and all that, but it was the oral tradition that shaped me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we've lost that connectivity.
Yeah. And I used to do the same thing. We lived in the Balkan building in Pontiac, Michigan. One room, about the size of this room. My mother, my father, and my sister. We took baths in a tin tub. It was as we left the room, it was a community toilet with 15 rooms like this, with 15 different families living in it. So it was a community toilet. Sometimes you had to wait out there 15 minutes to use the bathroom because somebody else, it was a line.
Mm-hmm.
See, and in the evening, right outside the building, on this 2-story building, they'd sit out and the old folks would play music, sing songs, and talk. So I sit out there with my father, Mr. Big Boy, Mr. Gillette, Mr. Dempsey. So I heard all of the stories. So I heard all of the stories. So this is another story I want to tell. So 2 police officers come up to me when I was a kid, about 6 years, 7 years old, and asked me, said, do you know where? He said, little boy. I said, yes, sir. You know where Mr. Douglas lived? I said, yeah. So I took him to Mr. Douglas' room. I knocked on the door. I said, he said, who is it? I said, Mr. Doug. I said, it's June Beach. He opened the door. He said, oh, Little Beach. And then at the same time, they arrested him, Put the handcuffs on him.
Uncle Walt, you was a snitch, man.
Yeah. so
letting them white folk use you.
Yeah. So what they do is that they put the handcuffs on him, and as he's going, Mr. Doug said, Little Beach. He said, go tell your father that I just got arrested. So I went and told my father, and Mr. Doug was in the policies, And a lot of kids don't know what policies are.
They don't.
They be playing lotto.
My daddy used to run policies.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know. So much money in policy that the government
took it.
The government took this money and said, if people gonna play the numbers,
we gonna control it.
We gonna control it.
Same thing they just did with marijuana.
Yeah. So Mr. Doug, they took him away, and then that evening, Mr. Doug was back out playing whist. We played whist, dominoes, sitting out there. So Mr. Rochelle come up. He said, Little Beach. He said, come here. I said, y'all what away. He said, play my hand. That's his hand of whist. He said, play my hand. And I took his hand, and he said, what you gonna bid? I said, I'm gonna bid 3 spades. He said, all right, bid it. And I said, so I bid 3 spades. And I got the bid. He said, now, what you gonna do? This is playing the game of whist. I said, well, the first thing I'm gonna do, because I'm And then it taught me the game. I said, first thing I'll do, I'm going to pull trumps. I'm going to play the trump. I got the ace of spade. I'm going to play the ace of spade. 4 fall. That's 4 of them. Play the king of spade. 4 more fall. That's 8. Play the queen of spade. 4 can't fall now because I done picked them all up. So, win the hand. And this is what Mr. Rochelle told me. He said, Little Beach. I said, what's that? He said, Mr. Doug is your trump. Mr. Doug is your trump. The black man that you knocked on the door, that's your trump. Not them 2 white officers. He said, that's your trump. Now, see, I learned this when I was 6, 7 years old. So the point I'm making, that my experiences, and we was talking about this to your daughter earlier today, my experience, all I'm telling you know is what I experienced. I ain't saying there are others, but that's what I experienced. See, I experienced my mother putting my sister's dress on me in Mounds, Illinois, at 9 years old, when the Ku Klux Klan came to murder me because I hit a white boy when I was 9 years old in Mounds, Illinois, and we out there playing like you play. So I'm a 9-year-old that hit another 9-year-old white boy, but it's death on that, man. I didn't know it was death on it. I'm just responding. I ain't gonna let no 9-year-old white boy hit me, and I'm 9. What am I gonna do?
Right.
Shit, I'm trying to beat his ass too.
That's wild. So you had those types of experiences. You learned those types of things.
Yeah, and that's all I want to say. That's the last one I share.
No.
Share.
You here, share.
That's what you're here for, Uncle Walt.
Here, share.
That's what you're here for. Listen, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure for you to be here, man. You share whatever you want to share. Yeah, that's come on, share.
Keep sharing.
And the people love you. They shouting Uncle Walt. You know what I mean? So, but to have lived the life that you live, you talk about 90 years, and we know what 90 years of American history looks like, right? But to have lived, theoretically, right? If you want to know. If you want to know, you can at least theoretically know. But to have lived it for 90 years, you have experiences of being a 9-year-old with a gang of white men come to your house to try to kill you. And then you get to a world now where you see, younger grown black men or whatever, or older grown black men think it's funny to play racist nigga slave games with white men. Or you got Canada now, right? Another topic we want to discuss today. Canada now is got ads and posters out, billboards out talking about, whites only this and whites only that. If you're tired of your kids having to live in this diverse world and having to be included with others, like getting back to the time when you grew up in, where it was like, you niggas stay in your place. You know what I mean? To have lived 90 years and realize that we've come
no place.
No place. No far. I'm like, not so far, but come no far. Me and Tu always reference the J. Cole line of the good news is, nigga, you came a long way. The bad news is, nigga, you went the wrong way. And what's your feelings and perspective on that, to be 90 years and realize that through all of our efforts, through all of our, struggles, we ain't moved much.
Well,
perhaps the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's painful and sad, but the pain and the sadness don't come out of what I consider the pathology, the theology, and the orthodoxy of racism. The pain comes from the aspect of some of my people. I live in Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
I see black folks, and I see black folks, and I see them, and they see me, and they'll drop their head and start texting. I'm in Philadelphia. I see a brother. He said, "Hey, man." I'm in Detroit. I see a brother. He said, "Hey, man." I'm in New York, Brooklyn. I see a black man. He said, "Hey, man." But there are some places where you see black folks, they drop their head and start texting because they don't want to be
address you,
part of you. That's the thing, scary. See, because I don't care about racism and white supremacy. I didn't create it, and it ain't up to me to eliminate it. So don't burden me with their responsibility. So if racism continues, ain't nothing I can do about it because I didn't create it. So if it's going to be destroyed or destructed, some white folks who create it going to have to be the ones to destroy it. Now, if they don't want to destroy it, then cool. But the point I'm making, and I made it earlier, the comfortable place that I want to be is to get out of this mess, this cesspool. That's me. And like I said, I haven't been able to commit to my wife because she come out of a different environment and different struggle. The house we got, that means a lot to her. That house don't mean doo-doo to me. It don't mean doo-doo to me. I'd rather sell that house, take some money, and go somewhere where I don't have to deal with this other stuff. That's the stuff. That's just my opinion. I don't want to deal with and I'm being polite on this program because
you can say how you feel. You can say how you feel, Uncle Walt. You know that.
Yeah. So we
being polite as you here.
Yeah, I'm being polite, you know. But like you say, you gonna call me a nigger and I can't call you a cracker. That don't make no sense. See, I keep getting back to that. Fair exchange ain't no robbery, man.
Right.
Whatever you do unless I want to say that because that was Malcolm's fight. That's the primary point that Malcolm made. Mm-hmm. Malcolm, in the Ballad of the Bullet, Malcolm made one point, and the point that he made, and it was about even Steven. And about the war, he said how they put in Vietnam, or was it Vietnam or Korea? Vietnam. Mm-hmm. How the Vietnamese put the European and English and the British out of their country. He said they did it because Malcolm said, even Steven, I'll do to you what you do to me. And until you get to that point, I think it's going to all be a mystery. But if a cat look up at you and say, man, I'll take your tongue out, and you look at him and say, I'll take yours too. Even Steven.
We also often reference to the point you're making. We often reference Jeff Fort, who started the Black Peace Stones in Chicago, and he's on national TV addressing police brutality, and he says on the live news, which would be unheard of today, on live news, he said, listen, to the police, you come through here,
ain't gonna be no killing without no killing.
That's right.
Period. To the police.
To the police.
You feel me?
On the TV.
On the TV.
And the bottom line is the police know that.
Yeah,
that's why they don't go that direction.
They know that they know if you make it known. So to the story you told earlier about the white cop in New York in Central Park.
Yeah. Right.
He ain't know it until you made him know it.
Yeah, that's right.
He was perfectly fine shooting you about an umbrella and some water.
Right.
Until you said, hey. If that's what we own, that's what we own. But I'm on that too.
Yeah.
Back to that power of words conversation, though, right? This is the thing, we said this too a while ago, because we always kind of hold our hat on the resiliency of black people. And maybe it's not resiliency, maybe it's just cowardice.
Yeah.
Right? But that's also the power of words.
Yeah.
We hang our hat on the behavior. This is not a behavior you should be hanging your hat on.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. So the incidents Beach has had, I've had.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Again. And I ain't gonna lie to you, right? I picked that shit up from my dope boy partners.
Yeah.
That's just the truth, right? Being in the car, my dope boy partners, the way they deal with the police is not the way, Mr. Johnson is gonna deal with the police.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? And the response that the police give them is not the response they give Mr. Johnson.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? And I learned that directly being in the car with dope boys on police stops. And I was like, you can do this shit?
You can talk about
what
that?
What the fuck have I been doing all this time?
Why have I been volunteering for this bullshit?
Why have I been volunteering for this bullshit?
Well, in Cleveland, I had to go. When I was in Cleveland, I was Carl Stokes' administrative assistant, and I ran the youth program for Cleveland. And when the riot went down with Ahmed Evans and Harlell Jones and the Black Nationalists in Cleveland, I was on the scene. To show you how this stuff developed, I was on the scene. And when I got to the scene and the shooting was going on, I was hiding behind the cars. But I also noticed, so were the policemen.
Because bullets is bullets.
Yeah. I said, look, I said, these cats are shooting. And I looked at the policeman, and the policeman said,
these cats are shooting.
But now it might be something for you to understand, but it's just hard for you to have the kind of experiences that I had, and I know everybody ain't gonna have it, and not to come out in a certain way, and not to understand certain things. So there's certain things, and I know it's offensive, but again, sitting out there with Mr. Rochelle, Mr. Big Boy, Mr. Doug, my father, my Uncle James, Bobo, my Uncle Bobo, Jim Davis. So I sat out there, and that's what you said. I sat out there with black men, and they wasn't afraid, man. I was sitting out there with black men, and my father went to church on 2 days. He went to church on Mother's Day, and if one of his friends died. And my father taught me this. He said, man, he said, if you're scared, join church. I ain't trying to offend nobody.
He said, if you're scared, go to church.
He said, but if you're scared, join church. Of course, you can get saved. You know, somebody, they got some guys to come out to sky somewhere and save you.
Mythical Sky Daddy got you covered.
Yeah, they said.
Mythical Sky Daddy.
Yeah, so he said, if you're scared, join church. And so, and I'm kind of like this because this is coming out of my book, you know. And I said, if you're scared, join church. Why did I get my grandmother, Ola Mae Page Beach, my grandmother from Franklin, Tennessee, tall, slim, black, regal woman, wore hair real straight and way down, and founded 2 churches. So I grew up in the church, founded 2 churches in Pontiac. And Granny used to tell me this. She had a saying, and this is, plus I had a sister. So my wife she don't like this saying. My grandmother's saying was, the Beach Boys are as good as gold. The Beach Boys are as good as gold. So my wife said, well, what about your sister? I said, well, she was as good as gold too, but that wasn't what the emphasis was on. So I said, Granny, tell me about my granddaddy, who was Walter Beach Sr., her first husband. He said, and this is, she always referred to him as Beach. She said, boy, you know what Beach would do? I said, no, Granny, what would Beach do? He said, in Franklin, Tennessee, black folks had to get off the sidewalk when white folks was walking past. They had to get off the sidewalk. And he said, and especially when it was raining and muddy, she said, and your father, Beach, she didn't say your grandfather, she said, you know what Beach do? Said Beach had a bandolier around him, a shotgun, and a pistol, and walked in the mud in the street with a shotgun and said, my wife ain't getting off the sidewalk. And she said, and I would just strut. She said, I would just strut. She said, I'd feel so proud, you know. I said, well, Grandy, whatever happened to Granddaddy? He said, oh, white folks said that nigga's crazy. Now, this is my grandmother talking. That nigga's crazy. Yeah, he was crazy, like a fox. I got the shotgun.
Or just a goddamn man.
Yeah.
It's a man.
See?
Right.
So, and he said, look.
And you're shunned for those behaviors.
The man looks crazy.
The man looks fucking crazy.
For not cowering.
Back to the power of words, too, though. Back to the power of words.
It is.
I told y'all a couple weeks ago about the shows with the homosexual men that were in the men of character.
Shy.
I just so happened I didn't say the Shy in that conversation. I didn't, because I don't even watch the Shy. Something happened on the Shy where it made some social media waves. I said, man, well, let me see what this shit is. I turned the Shy on for the first time. Every character of Valor that is a man is gay. Every character that is a man of valor is gay. One's nailing a transvestite, the other one's nailing another dude. It's like every man of valor is gay. So we think about how these images and these messages dictate behavior.
Yeah, that's
right? And that's just one thing. But think about how as you come out as a man,
you're crazy.
And you say, hey man, fuck all that.
Yeah.
You're shut off.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Right? And that's just that's the gender sexuality conversation. We ain't talking about money. We ain't talking about politics. We ain't talking all the
Self-defense.
same shit.
Yeah.
See, you,
Fuck you mean? Put this book down.
This conversation, you'll be deemed crazy.
Right?
100%.
But imagine that. I want y'all to context is a motherfucker. And that's why when B said I've been here 90 years, I said we don't really get it.
Yeah.
Like he's seen the don't you bring your black ass over here to drink out this water fountain.
Move
He
off
lived
the
it.
sidewalk.
He lived it, move off the fucking sidewalk. We ain't that far removed from that shit.
Right.
And I always say that.
Let me tell you this. Not only when I won this Super Bowl ring, world champion, I only won the champion. Man, they put me up on their back in Cleveland, Ohio, with Jim Brown. And after we left that football field,
You was a nigga.
wasn't no place on the west side that we could go. Not one. And the west side was probably where all of the spectators came from.
Thanks for the championship, nigga.
Yeah.
Can't eat here though.
What was the movie that just
It was the
came
One
out?
Night in Miami. We talk about it all the time.
One Night in Miami.
With Jim Brown on the
Jim
porch.
Brown, the Jim Brown story. He goes back to his hometown. He's a hero at this point. He's fucking Jim
He's Jim
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
Widely
Right.
regarded as the greatest running back of all time.
Why did he goes to the white neighbor's house and they was like, "Don't you come in this fucking house?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
They was
but
praising him all the way till he got to the door.
no.
It's a
Should have praised him at the
I
door.
want to give more context because it was so crazy watching the movie. Like they said, he go back to see the old white man. The white man talking to him. Jim, I'm so proud of you. It's so good to see you. And they sit on the porch and they chop it up for about 30, 45 minutes.
And he confused the whole time he's sitting on the porch.
He sit on the porch. They chop it up.
But
for
he
30
getting comfortable.
He getting comfortable.
He getting comfortable.
They had a lady bring out lemonade. Say, I'll go in there and help you with the lemonade. She's like, no, I got the lemonade. It's cool.
Right.
So they go in there, got the lemonade, and she go back in there and drop something. Or they're trying to bring a couch inside. Something. He like, oh, I'll help you bring it inside. And Buddy, who been sitting there showing them love and praise
The whole time he there.
for 45 minutes to an hour is like, now Jim,
Nigga, you know you can't come to my house.
you know niggas aren't allowed inside.
Well, let me
You
say
know
this.
niggas aren't allowed inside.
Let me say this, cause I want to bring. I want to.
Get on the porch, nigga.
I want to bring some other stuff to
I got
this
a
too.
question too.
Oh,
Walt.
Let me say this. I want to bring some questions. I want to bring some another dimension to this phenomenon. And I grew up in Pontiac, Michigan, and I could always run fast, even when the white boy called me a nigger. You know, I could still run fast.
Like cornerback in the NFL, you're probably faster than most people.
But anyway, when I was in Pontiac, I wanted to. I was running track and I wanted to play football. And this is a junior high school. I must have been 9 to 10 years old, whatever. I don't know the age.
12 probably.
But I wanted to play high school, Washington Junior High School. So I went out for the football team. And guys in the school said, man, they ain't gonna let you play no football. So I went out for the football team. And Mr. Watson, I'm being very specific about it. Mr. Watson was the junior high school coach. So he put me on the football team. So I played football in Washington Junior High School. I was the only black player on the team. And that's in Pontiac High School. Then I get into high school and I run track and held the Michigan State record for 220 yards and playing football. And so again, and I'm like I said, I'm specific. They let me play football because no other black boy had been in Pontiac, Michigan that played football. So they let me play football. Mm-hmm. So out of that, I began to understand is that I had a value. That's why they ain't calling me nigger. I got a value. I'm worth something. All right, go to the military, play football, get out of the military, come home, and because I played football in the military, when I got out of the military, the University of Michigan, Michigan State, and Central Michigan came to my house to recruit me to play football. And after all of them left, all of them were white coaches. Biggie Munn, I forgot their names. Bill Kelly, But anyway, when they left, my father said, well, what school you going to go to? They all want to offer you a scholarship to go to college to play football. I said, well, I don't know. One is as good as the other. My mama said this. She said, June. I said, yeah, Ma. She said, Mr. Kelly is a good man. Go to Central Michigan, because he's a good man. That's what my mother told me. I go to Central Michigan. I'm on Central Michigan. I'm the only black boy. We play in
most people, to be clear, most people would have chosen Michigan and Michigan State. You talk about Bo Schembechler and all those guys.
Right. Yeah, but I'm following my mother's advice.
Right, because she's thinking different than from football.
She's
the stakes are higher right now.
She's looking different.
Yeah.
She said, so we play in Illinois, play Western, Eastern, and Northern Michigan, Western and Eastern, Northern Illinois, Chicago, we play. So in Indiana, we play in all these places. Every time we go to play, and we walk into a restaurant, 10 or 15 players might be in the restaurant before I got in there. And when I walked in there, they come up to me and say, young man. I said, yeah. He said, we don't serve color. I said, you mean it? And then Coach Kelly would say, what you mean you don't serve color? I said, well, we don't serve colored people here. Coach Kelly would say, all right. So all of us, he said, let's go. We're not eating here.
Whole team.
The whole team. We're not eating here if Walt can't eat here.
Mm-hmm.
So we eat on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The bus pulls up at a hotel. Same thing happens. When I walk in, you can't come to this hotel. Coach Kelly said, all right. We sleep on the bus. Mm-hmm. 60 football players and coaches sleep on the bus.
Mm-hmm. Now
so I'm just trying to make this point.
Yes, sir.
So my mother said, this is a good man. See, all white people are involved in this racism. All Europeans or Caucasians don't embrace that principle. Coach Kelly didn't embrace the racist principle, but he was a Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to deal with the danger of somebody saying, I heard Walter B. say that all white people are racist. I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying those who are should wear it, and those who are operate out of that whiteness, not out of the essence of being a Caucasian man or European man.
Sure.
So when they operating out of that, they operating out of that whiteness. I'm a white man.
That construct.
Yeah, and that's the construct. That's the evil construct that exists on this planet.
Mm.